So the other day, I was sitting outside of a cafe reading a book, not surprising, and I noticed a woman across from me reading a book of her own. And that book was the wildly successful self-help book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Now, I haven't read this book, but my god have I seen it around for the past few years. It's everywhere. And something about it kind of raised my hackles, as is often the case when I see people reading self-help books like that one. Which led me to ask myself two questions. The first, why? Why do I get the ick around self-help books like that one? And two, what do I mean by self-help books like that one? What does that mean exactly? Now, very conveniently, especially for this video, those two questions led to the same answer, which we'll get to in a second. But first, we fast forward a few days. I'm in that cafe again, this time reading a self-help book of my own. This one, to be precise, Brain Lock by Jeffrey M. Schwartz. We'll get to what this book is and why I was reading it a little bit later, but me being there again a few days later, reading a self-help book made me think of that woman and what she was reading and why my book is different from her book, at least in my mind. This immediately makes me sound arrogant. I understand that. She was reading a book that brought my hackles up, and I was reading a book that I chose to read. Therefore, obviously one that doesn't get my hackles up. But why? What exactly is going on here? Why do I have a problem with certain self-help books? And I know I'm not the only one. A lot of us have issues with self-help books. We talk about it a lot. There are people who love self-help books, and there are people who kind of laugh and sneer and look down their nose at them. I'm often one of those people. But why? I've got American friends who've remarked at the fact that in Barnes & Noble in the US, self-help is the biggest section of any bookshop. Why? Why is that the case? Well, that's a different question. I have answers. I'm sure you do too. Life is hard, life is difficult, capitalism sucks, etc., etc. But I don't want to go into that. I instead want to dig into the cynicism with so much self-help literature and what the problem with it is exactly. Let's start by looking at the blurb for The Subtle Art of Not Giving a in case you have no idea what that book is. The book is written by Mark Manson, and as I said, it's one of the most popular, successful, best-selling self-help books on the market today. And I looked Mark Manson up, and he, before writing that book, was a blogger. In 2008, he started a blog about dating advice. There's not a lot on his wiki page to give any kind of insight into how he's qualified to do these things. He's just someone who started a blog and went with it. I started a blog and just went with it, and it brought me here to where I am today, so kind of similar stories. I decided to write about travel and literature. He decided to give people advice, but he doesn't seem to have any qualifications, any academic background in that kind of area, so maybe he's just very wise and knowledgeable. I don't know. I haven't met him, I've never been on his blog, and I've never read his books. In this generation-defining self-help guide, a superstar blogger cuts through the crap to show us how to stop trying to be positive all the time so that we can truly become better, happier people. For decades, we've been told that positive thinking is the key to a happy, rich life. F*** positivity, Mark Manson says. Let's be honest, shit is f***ed, and we have to live with it. In his wildly popular internet blog, Manson doesn't sugarcoat or equivocate. He tells it like it is. A dose of raw, refreshing, honest truth that is sorely lacking today. The Subtle Art of Giving a F*** is his antidote to the coddling, let's all feel good mindset that has infected American society and spoiled a generation, rewarding them with gold medals just for showing up. Ugh! That sounds disgusting. Now, as a British person, I am grumpy by nature, so this book doesn't feel like it's for me. It does feel like it's more specifically for an American audience. I've spent a lot of time in the States, so I've got a lot of American friends, I have a majority American audience, and I know that the US is a very toxically positive place. Like, there's this weird assumption that a lot of Americans have about Brits that we're really polite, and obviously that is very much not true. In fact, in my experience, the opposite is true. Americans are incredibly polite on the face of it, except for the fact that there is no please and thank you when you go to a cafe or a restaurant. People often say, I'll take her or I'll get her, and I'm like, you mean, please, can I have this? Thank you. That's what you mean, right? That annoys me. But in general, Americans are, on the face of it, a lot more positive and friendly and smiley and happy than Brits are. So I do feel like this book is designed to rip down that facade and encourage Americans to be okay with the reality that life is difficult. That sounds fine, great. What makes me go blah is the fact that he says it like it is, which is very much conservative speak for this person's an asshole, I'm an asshole, and so I like him. That's what I think when someone says, yeah, he tells it like it is. I'm like, right, so he's an asshole then. I know that's not always transferable from person to person, situation to situation, but it's definitely a red flag phrase, right? So when I see books like that one, I get weirded out, I get nervous because I can't really figure out what exactly the book is trying to solve. There are so many self-help books like this one. Like that one that Jordan Peterson wrote that blew up the world for a minute, which turned out to just be conservative propaganda for men. These books are so often written in a very broad sense, or at least marketed in a broad sense. Anyone could get any life advice from this thing. It is kind of vague enough to just be like, this will improve your life. Whoever you are, your life will be improved somehow by this book. And it kind of frustrates me because shouldn't self-help be about a specific particular issue? You have a problem, a narrow, focused, independent issue in your life, in your mind, in your health, in your relationship, in your work, in your finances, something. There is a specific thing that you need help with, so you go to find the right book for you. But these kind of general self-help books that paint themselves as generally good philosophy for life, they feel like a grift. And I know that a lot of people get a lot of benefits from classic philosophy in the same way, especially Stoicism. So many people really are attracted to the philosophy of Stoicism and read classic Stoic philosophy in order to find a sense of grounding in their life. And like, good for them. But even then, I feel like they are searching for a specific thing. There is an issue that they have in their life and Stoicism speaks to them. That happens with all sorts of philosophies, with religion as well. But the idea that there is a self-help book that can just fix anyone, regardless of whatever, it makes me wonder what draws someone to a book like that. What are you looking for? What hole do you have inside you? Obviously, I can only guess, I can only speculate. These books sell millions of copies, and it makes me think that life is hard. We are all just kind of struggling and generally feeling unhappy, unfulfilled, and so we find comfort in books with very particular taglines or titles. 12 rules for life. Okay, well, I could do with some rules. I need a bit of rigidity. I think a lot of young men buy into the idea of 12 rules for life because they need some rules, some rigidity, some focus, some discipline in their life. They're attracted to that. The subtle art of not giving a well, makes me sound like a rebel. Maybe I need to rip up the rule book, rip up my life and just start over. Yeah, makes me feel punk. Let's see what this guy, this blogger has to say about ripping up everything and starting anew. I don't give a anymore. I'll do whatever I like. Okay, right. Feels like pseudo-punk attitude that's just not real at all. Which brings me to the book that I was reading. Like I said, my general attitude is if you have an issue in your life, you seek out a self-help book that will help you in particular with your specific issue. And that's what I was doing. This is Brainlock, like I said, by Jeffrey Schwartz. This book is about 30 years old at this point, and it is still regarded as the gold standard of self-help books for obsessive compulsive disorder, which I suffer with. I was seeing a therapist for a while who just kept recommending me this book, so eventually I bought it and I read it. And I've just finished it, and it's given me a lot to think about. Now, I have talked before in videos about the fact that I have obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. I think I've had it in a very minor way most of my life, but over the past 6 months to a year, it has become unbearable. It is disrupting and pulling apart my relationship, my mental health, my job, my everything. I am finding it very difficult to function day to day because of my OCD. And when I say OCD, I do not mean, oh my God, I'm so OCD about needing to keep my kitchen clean or my desk tidy. God, I'm just so OCD about that. F off. If you have that attitude, I'm so OCD about this. God, I just like it when it's neat. F you. F off. No, that's not what OCD is. I'm sick of that attitude. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a mental illness that ruins people's lives. And it can drive people to very, very dark places. And anyway, OCD is not pleasant. And I have really, really bad OCD. Sometimes I cannot eat or drink anything. I can't leave my house. It is ruining my life day by day. And so I've been going to therapy and my therapist recommended this book. Now, this book is specifically about OCD. It is about nothing else. It is not designed to help you with anything else at all. This book will not make you rich. It will not make you successful. It will not help you with your love life or your career. This book is designed to help people overcome obsessive compulsive disorder, a specific mental illness. And that's what I like about good self-help. This is an expert in his field writing a very specific book based on his experiences as a psychologist, as a therapist, as a researcher at UCLA, in order to help people overcome an illness that they have. Whereas the subtle art of not giving a what is that? Who's that for? Who wrote that? What are his qualifications? Who is he targeting? What exactly is the point of this? Who is being helped and how and why? It's also wishy-washy. My problem with this is that why? Why? But with something like this, I know why. About 10 years ago, I was feeling very depressed. I was really struggling with depression. And so I read a kind of psychology philosophy thing called The Noonday Demon. The Noonday Demon turned out to be a really great book that gave me a lot of insight into how depression works. And that book was written back in the 90s, and it's still a landmark book about depression, written by someone who is qualified to speak about depression as a biochemical thing, as a social thing, etc., etc. It wasn't really a self-help book. It was insightful more than anything. But this, however, is an actionable self-help book about overcoming OCD. It talks about this 4-step method. So when you are feeling an obsession or a compulsion, you follow the 4 steps that are outlined in this book. Step 1, relabel. Step 2, reattribute. Step 3, refocus. And step 4, revalue. And those 4 steps don't take long to do. And this book has a lengthy introduction that goes over everything in a really nice amount of detail. Honestly, you can get so much just from the intro. It's very inspiring, very hopeful. But then you have 4 sections dedicated to the 4 steps, and then a part 2 that goes into how to apply this to your daily life. And as you read all of these parts, you are developing a kind of immune system to deal with OCD. When you feel a compulsion to wash your hands, for example, this is a big thing I have. I am covered in eczema. I have really bad eczema between my fingers because I wash my hands like 50 times a day. That's OCD, not keeping a desk tidy. OCD is being an hour late to meet someone because you had to keep checking that your door was locked and you did that 1,000 times. OCD is washing your hands 50 times a day until they're raw or you have eczema like I do because everything is contaminated, everything is dirty. You can't eat or drink anything because it's all contaminated. Contamination is a big problem. Anyway, you do these 4 steps whenever you feel a compulsion coming on. When I feel the urge to wash my hands because I just think maybe I touched something that was bad and will make me sick, but maybe I can't even remember what it was, and I'll invent something or go, wow, what if that thing I touched was touched by something else that was, and it goes on and on and on, right? So often with OCD, the question is what if? So many intrusive thoughts when it comes to OCD begin with what if. What if I pick something up off the floor and that patch of floor was previously infected by some deadly virus and now I've got that virus on my hands? And that's how it goes, right? It sounds insane because, oh my God, it is. And the examples that they give of real people who have struggled through and used the 4 steps to get over it, they're all patients of this incredible psychologist. The things that they have been frightened of, the what if scenarios that they have and the things that they've done, the compulsions that they come up with, absolutely wild. There's one guy who always had this what if compulsion that he might have razor blades on the ends of his fingers, and so he would never stroke his dog or touch his wife in case he cut them with his razor blade fingers. It sounds insane because it really is wild what OCD is. And if you told me this stuff a few years ago before I had OCD, I would have gone, that's ridiculous. And now I have OCD and I go, wow, that poor guy. I understand. The fears that you come up with, it's absolutely wild. And so the 4-step method does 2 things that I really like. One, it it gives you actionable steps to overcome these obsessive, compulsive, intrusive thoughts. And 2, it really offers you empathy. It gives you examples of all these people who struggle with all of these things that are similar to what you go through. Maybe more extreme, maybe less extreme, maybe very comparable. And it lets you know that you're not alone, and they overcame it, and how they overcame it, and they did it with these 4 steps. So you go through these 4 steps. And I can now put this book down, and next time I have the urge to wash my hands, I can follow the 4 steps in my head. The first step, remind myself that what I'm experiencing is a compulsion. Second step, why do I have this compulsion? Because I have a mental illness called obsessive compulsive disorder, which screws with my brain and tells me I need to do something when that's not actually true. Step 3, go do something else. Go do a hobby, go do something fun. Instead of washing your hands, go spend 15 minutes playing a video game, or listening to music, or go for a walk. Go do some gardening. Do something that brings you joy for 15 minutes. Then, after those 15 minutes, you will be able to see OCD differently, see it for what it is, and go, wow, that was just a silly compulsion. Now I feel okay. And it takes that 15-minute distraction after admitting to yourself that there's something wrong and what that something wrong is to get over it all and move on. And it works so well. This is a self-help book that is saving my life one day at a time. I am making an assumption here, but I can't imagine the same is true for something like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this book has helped people with their self-confidence, with restructuring their mental attitude to the world around them, to their job, to their personal life, to the societal structures that govern and puppet master everything we do. Maybe these books have really helped people rethink how they live their lives and helped them make the right changes that have dramatically improved their life. Something like quitting your job, or going back to school, or getting that divorce you desperately needed to get. I don't know. Maybe. But they just all seem so vague. I feel like I have a hole inside of me. Something is wrong. I don't know what it is. I'm going to read this book and maybe it'll fix everything. And I just think self-help books do their best job when they are focused and narrow and specific. You have an issue. Read a book that will help you get there. And who is the person writing it? Are they some blogger with no background in anything as far as I can tell? Are they some grifter? Are they just someone who thinks that they're good at giving advice? Are they someone who came to a publisher with a fun angle? The idea that, ooh, this is radical and sounds extreme on paper and it's gonna sell a lot of copies because it's something that feels big and explosive but really is kind of empty platitudes? I don't know. I'm sure that's happened 1,000 times. But a book written by a scientist who is there to help you cure a specific thing or deal with a certain thing, like a mental health issue or a dietary problem, someone who might be helping you recover from PTSD or some kind of trauma, grief, a grief counselor writing a book about how to handle grief. Yeah. That's the kind of self-help that I'm gonna take seriously and understand when people are reading it. 12 Rules for Life? The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. Why? And obviously I haven't even touched on the ones that are written by businessmen and CEOs who were born into immeasurable wealth who tell you how to get wealthy like them. And obviously Trump wrote like 3 of those books. Those are grifts, right? That's not anything. That's just, I'm rich and successful. You can never ever get to my level. But I will write an empty, worthless, useless book that will make you feel aspirational. What is that? Those are the books that give self-help a bad name. I don't like the idea anymore that self-help is just shit. It's just worthless. And now I've read a self-help book that has helped me specifically deal with a specific mental illness that I have. A chronic illness. And now I believe in the power of self-help, and I've had to reframe how I see the idea of self-help. And I've come away with the attitude that self-help is good if you have a specific issue that you need help with from a professional with experience and with validity behind them who has written something that is specifically targeted to actioning a result that will improve your life in a specific way. That was a long sentence. But am I just being a prick because I read a self-help book that helped me in a specific way while looking down my nose at someone just reading a generic self-help book by some blogger guy? Am I just being an arrogant prick? Tell me. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that you read that book and it did change your life. I'd love to know that. On this channel, as you might know if you've been watching me for a while, I am always open to and excited by the possibility that my entire mind might be changed by a single comment. It has happened multiple times. I often make apology videos when people help me see the error of my ways. I love changing, and this is another video that will give you the opportunity to change my mind, and then I can make an apology video and admit that you were right and I was wrong. Because I'm just so humble. No, but I like change. I like changing. So make me wiser. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that I've completely got the wrong end of the stick here. But this is my feeling right now as I make this video. Self-help is great if it is specific and targeted and written by an expert who knows what they're talking about. Otherwise, just feels like fluff. Just feels like wasted platitudes and generic, your life will get better because reasons kind of thing. Just blah, pointless. Am I right? Tell me I'm right, tell me I'm wrong, tell me if you agree, disagree, what self-help books have helped you, change my mind, whatever. Oh, and Patreon, support me on Patreon because I deserve it, because I am fantastic. I'm gonna go subscribe for books.